pair of gravestones linked by a tale of passion and murder.
The story was biblical in proportion.
A giant statue that conceals an even bigger mystery.
The photo went on to be literally world famous.
And a town clock whose hands are frozen in time.
This clock stood witness to one of the most devastating events in the history of Hilo happen.
Sometimes the greatest secrets lie in plain sight. These are monumental mysteries.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. With over 700 outdoor sculptures, the city of brotherly love has more public art than anywhere else in the country. And as journalist Michael Cassell can attest, at the bottom of the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art stands one of the city's most popular attractions.
More tourists come to see this statue every year than any other monument in the city of Philadelphia.
This 8-foot-tall bronze figure depicts a character from a classic film about an underdog who gets the opportunity of a lifetime, Rocky. But few know the origins of this fictional character.
The statue represents so much, but there's actually a real story of a real man with an even more incredible story.
What real-life boxer helped inspire the epic movie series so many know and love today? 1975, Bayonne, New Jersey. In this industrial city just 10 miles from Manhattan, 36-year-old Chuck Wepner is barely scraping by as a liquor store clerk. But night after night, he pursues his true passion, boxing.
Chuck Wepner was what they call in boxing a ham and egger. He was a working class fighter. He had raw, natural power.
And while the 6'5" fighter isn't professionally trained, what he lacks in technique, he more than makes up for with physical strength.
He was a very, very hard puncher, and he was big.
After more than 10 years on the circuit as a professional boxer, Wepner has earned a degree of local acclaim.
In New Jersey, he was very famous because he had won the New Jersey state title. But throughout the world, throughout the country, nobody knew who Chuck Wepner was.
But in the winter of 1975, Wepner receives some life-changing news that will cement his legacy forever.
His mother called him up on the phone and said, "Chuck, did you see the paper? It says that you're gonna be fighting for the title."
And incredibly, Wepner's next opponent is none other than the reigning world heavyweight champion and the most famous boxer of the day, Muhammad Ali. Having heard about Wepner's exploits on the New Jersey circuit, boxing promoter Don King has chosen Wepner as Ali's next challenger. The choice keeps up a time-honored tradition of generating publicity by mixing in a seemingly easy win before moving on to more serious contenders. No one thinks that the underdog stands a chance against the champ.
The national press looked at Chuck as a joke. They made fun of him.
March 24th, the big night arrives. At Richfield Coliseum near Cleveland, Chuck Wepner comes face-to-face with Muhammad Ali. The odds are stacked 30-1 in favor of the champ.
The press ringside, they thought it was only a matter of time before Muhammad Ali was going to knock him out.
But to everyone's surprise, after 8 rounds, Wepner is still standing.
Ali's dropping the kitchen sink on him, but he's not going anywhere.
Then, in round 9, the unthinkable happens. Wepner delivers a powerful punch that sends Ali to the mat.
Muhammad went down. He went down hard. Everybody was thinking for a second, maybe this guy, who's a 30-1 underdog, could knock out the champion of the world.
But Ali doesn't stay down for long.
Ali, when he got up off the canvas, was extremely angry. From that point on, it was a bloodbath for Chuck Wepner. Ali turned it up all the way.
But Ali's so-called easy opponent refuses to surrender.
Is there a chance that Chuck Wepner could land one more punch like he did before and maybe be world champion?
Finally, in round 15, with only 9 seconds left before the bell, Ali lands a blow to Wepner's face that sends the challenger into the ropes. Ali is declared the victor, but Chuck Wepner, who went 15 rounds against the greatest fighter of all time, still emerges a hero.
He became mythical. He became a legend.
Wepner enjoys a brief moment in the spotlight and soon returns to New Jersey, where his career began. But his story is destined to live on, thanks to an up-and-coming Hollywood writer and actor named Sylvester Stallone. Stallone, who had watched the fight, uses Wepner's tale as inspiration to write, direct, and star in a 1976 film about an underdog who's plucked from obscurity to fight a champion, Rocky.
It's for every underdog, for every underachiever that has that one great opportunity.
The film goes on to win multiple awards and spawn 5 sequels. This statue of Rocky Balboa in his iconic pose was donated by the producers to the city of Philadelphia following the release of Rocky III. Today, the monument also serves as a reminder of the real-life hero who inspired a now classic film. The picturesque heights of Brooklyn, New York offer sweeping views of Manhattan's famous skyline. But this bustling borough of 2.5 million has a few landmarks of its own. And one of them is a verdant expanse of gravestones and memorials.
It is 478 acres of grave sites of Civil War generals, sports heroes, actors, musicians, politicians.
This is Greenwood Cemetery. Amidst these venerable structures are 2 gray granite tombstones that are inextricably linked for all eternity. One is etched with a weeping willow, and the other bears a disturbing inscription. May God rest her troubled soul. For author and historian Benjamin Feldman, these headstones mark the graves of a couple who were embroiled in a scintillating tale of unbridled passion and murder.
The story was biblical in proportion. It had every ingredient that any newspaper man could desire: lust, betrayal, violence, greed.
So what was this scandalous crime that gripped Victorian-age America? January 31st, 1857, Manhattan. A young man working at a dental practice at 31 Bond Street arrives for work and notices that the keys to the operating room have been left in the lock. When he pushes the door open, he makes a startling discovery.
There, lying in the perfect pool of gore, was the cold corpse of Dr. Harvey Burdell, his torso riddled with stab wounds.
Dr. Burdell, a wealthy and well-respected man, was the proprietor of the dental practice. Initially, the police theorized that the dentist was the victim of a robbery gone bad. But when nothing is found missing, the idea is dismissed. So who could have killed Dr. Harvey Burdell, and why? An examination of the doctor's body yields a solitary clue.
After the coroner's physicians examined Burdell's corpse, they noticed that the stab wounds in his body had been made by someone who was left-handed.
But with little else to go on, it seems as if the crime may remain unsolved. But then, a woman steps forward with an unusual claim. Her name is Emma Cunningham, and she is the manager of the building in which the dental practice is located.
The rooms were hers to use and to rent out as she could see fit to make herself a little money.
But Emma, it seems, was no ordinary employee.
she pulled out a marriage certificate of Harvey Birdell and Emma Hempstead Cunningham.
Emma says she is Dr. Birdell's grieving widow and therefore the heir to his estate. But investigators sense that something's not quite right. After talking to residents of 31 Bond Street, police discover that Emma and Harvey's relationship had been fraught with tension.
It was known that she and Harvey Birdell had been acrimonious. Everybody instantly suspected Emma of having committed this murder.
And when police discover that Emma is left-handed, just like the killer, they begin to suspect that she might have murdered the dentist in order to get her hands on his vast fortune. When Emma is arrested and charged with murder, she swears she is simply a grief-stricken widow who has been falsely accused.
Emma screamed out, "Why would I have killed him? I was his wife."
In May 1857, the sensational trial begins. And prosecutors open with an extraordinary piece of evidence that casts doubt on Emma's story.
Birdell's acquaintances and relatives testified at the inquest that he was out of town in late October of 1856, the date of this marriage certificate, so he couldn't possibly have married Emma. Evidence was presented that Emma had gotten her boyfriend to get his hair dyed and put on false whiskers and show up claiming to be Harvey Birdell.
Prosecutors allege that Emma faked her wedding to Dr. Birdell and then murdered him to lay claim to his estate. It seems that Emma is all but certain to hang for this devious plot. But what happens next defies all expectations. It's 1857 in New York. Emma Cunningham is on trial for the murder of Dr. Harvey Birdell, whom prosecutors allege she killed for his vast fortune. It seems she's destined to hang for the crime. But this Victorian-era saga has a shocking twist. Emma's defense lawyer appeals to the all-male jury's chivalrous sensibilities.
Her defense attorney reminded the 12 men sitting in the jury box that their responsibility as gentlemen was to give Emma Cunningham the benefit of the doubt.
And even though the faked marriage certificate points to her guilt, Emma is acquitted on all charges. But the scandalous tale isn't over yet. Soon after the trial, a rumor spreads that Emma is pregnant.
If she were carrying Birdell's unborn child and gave birth to such a babe, she would gain control of Harvey Birdell's estate.
The only way she will be able to access Birdell's assets is to present an actual child to the court. But investigators believe Emma is faking her pregnancy. And as her supposed due date approaches, they hatch a daring plot to entrap her. Posing as underworld baby traffickers, detectives tell Emma that an unwanted child is available for purchase.
Emma was tipped off to come downtown to pick up a newborn infant.
Emma takes the bait and is caught red-handed and promptly arrested. She is convicted of fraud, sent to jail for a month, and so loses any hope of claiming the doctor's estate, as her reputation is forever tainted. 30 years later, in 1887, Emma Cunningham dies at the age of 69 and is laid to rest in Brooklyn's Greenwood Cemetery. And in a final twist of fate, she is buried only a few hundred yards from Dr. Harvey Birdell. But their story lives on. Today, tour guides at the Greenwood Cemetery regale visitors with this sordid tale of lust, greed, and murder in the Victorian era. San Diego is home to 1/3 of the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet. And here, next to the mammoth USS Midway aircraft carrier, visitors will find another towering landmark.
It's 25 feet tall, it's painted in vivid colors, and it portrays a moment in American history that's well known and well chronicled.
Depicting a sailor and a woman dressed in white, entwined in a fleeting embrace. This giant sculpture is titled Unconditional Surrender, and it mimics an iconic moment that captivated a nation.
Everyone recognizes the statue, but few people know the true story behind what led up to that moment.
How did this famous public display of affection lead to one of the most captivating mysteries of the 20th century? August 14th, 1945. At 7 p.m., United States President Harry S. Truman announces the news the nation had long hoped for. Japan has surrendered. World War II is finally at an end.
People didn't know how to react except unabashed joy, relief that the war was over.
Nowhere is the exuberance higher than in New York City's Times Square. And it's here that Life magazine photographer Alfred Eisenstadt captures a defining image in the victory celebrations.
And out of the corner of his eye, he saw a sailor barreling towards a nurse, and as they started to embrace, he aimed his camera at them and clicked 4 times.
And when the photograph of this passionate pose is published, it becomes an instant icon.
The photo went on to be literally world famous.
As the picture's status grows, so too does the public's curiosity.
People began to wonder who these people were. Alfred Eisenstadt never got the people's names, so there was no way to follow up.
And even though they become an enduring symbol of VJ Day, the couple's identity